Alright, what's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be compiling my anime games tier list. Now, before I get into this, I gotta say that I know that I'm probably going to have to update this either by the end of the year or maybe next year. I know eventually I'm gonna have to end up updating this because of other anime games coming out. We got Dragon Ball. What was it called? Dragon Ball Project Z. We got the new I think they announced a new Attack on Titan game, and then Sword Art Online Alicization. So we have more anime games coming out, but since we're getting close to the end of the generation, so I feel kind of confident, kind of putting this list together. Now there might be games that I missed. I don't think there's any that I missed. Let me know, because there are some anime games out there that I just don't know about. So this list is kind of based off of the games that I kind of know about, and you'll be surprised by some of the games that are on this list because some of the franchises that they're attached to, I'm not exactly a fan of, but the games themselves are pretty good from what I can tell, and they're very, some of the games are very unique. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So as always, with all my tier lists, I like to start from the bottom and work my way up. So at the E rank, so at the E tier, we would have One Piece World Seeker. Now, y'all already know I'm a big One Piece fan, man. Like, this channel used to be full of One Piece videos. And going in, like, when you compare the One Piece games of last generation, especially PS2 generation, especially generation, I would say 2 generations ago in the console life cycle. These One Piece games that we got this generation are pretty trash. I mean, I hate to say it, but World Seeker, as soon as I heard that you can't play as Zoro, you can't play as Sanji, and I know they just put out DLC where you get to play as Zoro, I think, but that's no excuse. That crap should be in the game. You should be able to play as all the pirates, and that's only just part of the game's problem. From what I've heard, from what I've seen, there's just little things that they did wrong with that game. It's very disappointing. And I keep saying this to people every time I see people in the comment section talking about this game, and even on One Piece World Seeker videos. I'm like, if y'all want to play a better game, there's like Unlimited World Red, and like I think there was a game on the Wii. Like, there are better One Piece games out there, especially better adventure games out there. And this game could have been better. Could have been way better. People were comparing it at first to Breath of the Wild, and while I'm not a big fan of Zelda and your Breath of the Wild, I think it's an overrated game. But to have that comparison there is it's only a positive, especially for anime game. But the game itself was butt cheeks. It was very disappointing. Next game, y'all already know. Y'all already know if y'all been on this channel long enough. Jump Force. This game, very disappointing, man. I remember being hyped for it last E3. Actually, E3's coming up. I want to say this weekend, Sunday. A year ago, I was hyped up for this. There was no excuse how unpolished, how terrible this game is, and in terms of roster too. Because if we're like let's take the gameplay out of the equation. Let's take the gameplay out of the equation because the gameplay is terrible. It's kind of your standard arena brawler type game in the vein of Ultimate Ninja Storm and stuff like that. But taking that out of the equation, the gameplay and mechanics and stuff, just the roster. This is supposed to be a celebration of Shonen Jump, and to have the roster be mostly from like the big three, or I guess you could say the big four, it's kind of disappointing. Like, there's so many Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto characters, and I'm big fans of those games, and I mean not games, anime. I'm a big fan of those anime, and even Bleach, but it sucks. It sucks just on roster alone when you compare it to even the other game that was on the console that came out like years ago. What was it called? J Stars Victory Versus. Even that had a more varied roster. I would say that the gameplay is weaker in. I would say the gameplay is weaker in Victory Versus, but in terms of doing what it's in terms of doing what it's being sold to do, in terms of celebrating Shonen Jump with a diverse cast of characters, it does it a lot better. It does it a lot better, and even I would say even the story mode, even though because the cutscenes, y'all have seen it. The cutscenes in Jump Force are terrible. It's like between the character models and just the weird glitches and kind of funny cutscenes and stuff that you could see it out there. I'm not even gonna explain it all, but you can see it out there. It's just it is terrible knowing that with the DLC out there, and with the I guess you can say rumors or leaks out there about the DLC. It's just like I wish that they had more diversity in the cast, but that's only one of my problems with that game. But I'm not gonna get into it. But yeah, Jump Force, very disappointing. One Piece Pirate Warriors 3. Now, I'm not a big fan of all these Muso games and stuff like that. And I, when it comes to those Muso games, like with the Gundam, because for a while they did the Gundam Muso games, the Dynasty Warriors type games, Dynasty Warrior type games, and I don't like that. I don't like that. It's just complete button mashy, and it's basically you fighting against brain dead enemies, man. And I personally like I personally didn't really see the appeal. I don't see the appeal of those games. I don't think those games were very good, to be honest. If we're being objective, those games aren't very good. Because even though like the Dynasty Warrior games themselves aren't even good, their their appeal is to certain people that just want to turn their brain off and just like mash the square button, mash the buttons and stuff, and see combos and stuff go off. But yeah, those games are trash. Um, New Gundam Breaker and Gundam Versus. I was disappointed in both of these games, just judging off of gameplay and stuff that I saw. And then I also played. I believe I played the demo for Gundam Versus, and I was hearing a lot of people praising this game because of when it was first in Japan and stuff. I believe this is the one that he said that I kept hearing people say that it was like an arcade game or something like that in Japan or whatever. But man, we haven't had a good Gundam game since PS2 era. Cause I really don't think we've had a good Gundam game since the PS2 era. I would even say when it comes to just mech games in general, like because we don't have Armored Core around anymore, we haven't really gotten a good mech game. So that's why something like Nintendo bringing out what's the name of that? Damon X Machina. Like that's why Nintendo bringing that out, I'm a bit hyped for. I played the demo for that game, and I said even though it's a bit slower, Damon X Machina is a bit slower than what I would like it to be, and there probably are some issues there, but I would rather play that than the Gundam games that they're giving us now. Because it seems like Japan is kind of hogged all the good Gundam games, and then we get the shovelware. Like, any of y'all feel like that? Anyway, Berserk. So we got Berserk, what was it, Band of the Hulk? I heard this game was trash. I heard that the anime is terrible, and that the manga is better. I have no clue what Berserk is. I mean, I've heard of it, I've seen of it, but I don't know exactly what the story's about and everything. People always talk about how graphic it is and how intense it is and stuff, but in terms of the game, it was pretty terrible. I remember getting very low review scores, and I remember looking at it and just being like, not for me, man. This is terrible. But okay, so let's go to the D rank. So in the D tier, we got One Piece Burning Blood. Now, once again, I'm a big One Piece fan, and I played the demo of this, and there was a lot not to like. It was more like a storm game. It's more like another arena brawler, another one of those 3D, 3D fighter arena brawler type games. basically copy and paste of the Storm formula, almost. It did have, if I remember correctly, it did have sort of like a different camera angle, but with that game, it was just very shallow. Just like I would say, like the Ultimate Ninja Storm games, when you compare them to other fighters out there on the market, even if you compare them to other anime fighters that we've had in the past, like Budokai Tenkaichi, like I guess you could say Clash of Ninja, but that's kind of different. But when you compare it, it's just like night and day when it comes to the mechanics. And I believe there was like, and I don't want to say the name of the game was like One Piece Grand Battle or One Piece Grand Adventure, something like that, on the GameCube and like PS2 era games. Like those are massively superior to Burning Blood in terms of mechanics and stuff. Like we've had better One Piece fighting games out there, and this just felt like another cash grab, another game that's just doing the bare minimum, kind of copying off of that popular formula that a lot of Bandai Namco fighting games are kind of using now. You know, with the success of the Ultimate Ninja Storm games. And so the next game is J Star's Victory Versus. And I should have said this earlier, actually. And know what? I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, what I want to say. I'm gonna save it to the end of the video because I really need to just say that. So anyway, J Star's Victory Versus. So I know some of y'all wondering why is J Star's Victory Versus above Jump Force? You know, Jump Force, mechanically speaking, I believe it probably is the superior game. But like I said earlier, it's more of a roster thing in terms of representation because why is this game out there? Why did they make this game? They didn't make this game, they didn't make J Star's Victory Versus and Jump Force to be a technical fighter or even a complex and even like a complex, arena brawler. Like they didn't make it to be something on a level of a Dragon Ball Fighters or even a Clash of Ninja or even like Ultimate Ninja 5 or Ultimate Ninja Storm or whatever. Why they made those games, like I said earlier, is just roster. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of the big roster of shonen IP that have been in Shonen Jump for years, for like what, 51 years. And I feel like this game does it better. And I know I just heard, well, not heard, or I just read the other day that like there was some reason why they couldn't put Shaman King in there because I was really disappointed. On a side note, they couldn't put Shaman King in there because I guess like they lost the rights or something, which I'm very disappointed about. But with the DLC for Jump Force, I'm hoping that maybe they could get other franchises, but it doesn't seem like it's possible. And I feel like I said, J Star's Victory Versus, I think that just in comparison, maybe like I would say the story mode is better and the like I said, the character roster. The character roster is way better. But okay, so the next game is Black Clover. And Black Clover deserves better, man. I don't know why. First of all, when this game got announced, everybody was like, why is this game, why is this anime getting a game so early? Like, the anime had just started, and we were wondering why this game was getting a game already. Like, why is this anime getting a game? And I'll commend them. I'll commend Bandai Namco and the developers for doing something different, for doing essentially a multiplayer shooting game that was an anime game. They were tackling a different genre. They were tackling a more popular genre, but a different genre that we don't really get to see with anime games, and I can appreciate that. And that's why, at the very least, I can put it at the D tier. Now I know that I think the game is like dead. I think it like died like weeks after the game even came out. Tell me in the comment section below if y'all are like still playing that. But yeah, this game like it wasn't very good. From what I heard, it was like very unbalanced. And one of the biggest things that I saw there, being someone that is trying to get into game design and stuff like that, just little stuff that I notice on a lot of games sometimes is like UI. The UI, let me say the full name for those of y'all who don't know what a UI is. User interface. The user interface in that game is very cluttered. It's a very cluttered UI. The UI is so cluttered. It's like you can't tell what's going on. Like from the untrained eye, if you just showed anybody a screenshot of that game, it's just like, okay, what's going on? I can't really read. I can't. I don't really know what's going on. And with that game, like it just had a lot of problems. And but like I said, I'm happy that they at least attempted to do something different. I would have liked, and I think Black Clover would lend itself better because like I said, they could have easily gone the arena brawler route like they did with all their other games and they have done recently. And I can appreciate the fact that they went with a different genre, but I think Black Clover kind of lends itself a lot more to being an RPG. Maybe do a turn-based RPG next time, or maybe do even an action RPG. That might be a little bit better. But okay, so at the C rank, at the C tier, we got Dragon Ball Heroes. This is the card. This is the card battle game. And I know some of y'all are wondering, okay, why is this above? Why is this above Chump Force and Gundam Versus and all these other games that I've mentioned before? Um, so I'll admit that I haven't played this. I've seen gameplay, and honestly, it looks like an okay game. It looks like an okay card game, and it's something different. It's something different that we haven't really gotten before. And y'all can tell me if y'all played the card game whether or not this game is terrible or not. It looks like it could be fun. I'm a big fan of card games. We don't get a lot of card games anymore. Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh isn't as popping as it was. Back in the day. It's not really a high priority, especially for like Konami and stuff like that. So, that game is definitely something different. So the Sora Online games, I know y'all are wondering why is this up there, and honestly, because I've said this before, like I said at the beginning of the video, despite what I said about any of the anime mentioned, like Attack on Titan, I have Attack on Titan up here. So here's my reasoning. So Sora Online Fatal Bullet and Sora Online, what's it called? Last Song or Lost Song or something like that. Those two games, I can say this based off of what I've seen and based off of my experience with like what was that game called? Hollow Realization. These games are pretty decent RPGs. They're not on the level of they're not on the level of a Persona 5 or like any other RPG that isn't like completely anime like based on the anime like isn't like licensed or whatever, but they're pretty decent RPGs. Say what you want about Sora Online, the anime itself, but they're pretty decent RPGs. They're right up there with Dot Hack, and I think in some ways, after playing the Dot Hack collection, I feel like the games might actually be a little bit better. I think the reason why I couldn't really, the thing that kind of kept me from really kind of getting into Hollow Realization, I would say, was kind of like the harem stuff, because they got a big harem in that show, and there were just little things with, I don't want to say pacing, but it was just little things that kind of holding it back. But I could see how a lot of people had fun with the games, and honestly, seeing how they just announced Alicization, I kind of want to check that out. I'm not gonna lie, but those games are pretty decent, and I'm pretty sure there's people still playing those games. So, like in comparison to other games that are on the lower tier, I would say that those games are better made, and yeah, I think they're much better games overall. And despite what I think about Attack on Titan, I believe it's Koei Tecmo did those games, and they just announced, like I said, they just announced another Attack on Titan game. But what I would say is that, again, not a fan of the Attack on Titan, but at least they tried. Because Koei Tecmo, those are guys, for those of you guys who don't know, these guys are responsible for just basically churning out Dynasty Warrior games and all these other type of Muso games. They're just button mashers, just clear brain dead button mashers with repetitive gameplay over and over and over. And I think the first Attack on Titan, I believe it did probably get kind of repetitive from what I heard people say, but I'll give them this. They tried something different with the gameplay because of the, I believe what they call it in the show, cuz forgive me, it's been a while cuz I haven't watched the show. I dropped it. I dropped it after the first season. What's it called? The omnidirectional gear or whatever. With that, it brings a whole nother dimension of gameplay. So even if it is a bit similar to the Muso gameplay, which I feel would be kind of an unfair comparison, given the fact that just the level of verticality and speed that you get with the omnidirectional gear, like it looked like a fun game. Even though even though I'm not a fan of Attack on Titan, like when I saw people screaming it when the game came out, I said, okay, this looks cool. It looks cool. You know, I'm not a fan of the anime, but it looks cool. And uh, I feel like that gameplay alone with the omnidirectional gear and then you having to target, you being able to target, because if I remember correctly, and y'all can correct me in the comment section below, you were able to target, you basically able to target different sections of the what do you call them, Titans. You get to target like their neck or their different body parts and stuff. Like there was a depth there. There was a gameplay complexity there that isn't in something like One Piece. What's it called? One Piece Pirate Warriors or the other like Muso type games. And so that's why I can kind of put it up there at the C tier. And okay, so the only other games that I did not talk about, Saint Seiya. Now this I watched gameplay of, and I kind of wanted to get it, but like at $60 when it came out, I was like, nah, it don't look that great for a $60 purchase, but it looked okay. It looked like an okay game. I remember Saint Seiya coming on Konami, and that's kind of where my where my expertise on that franchise kind of stops. Cause like I barely remember. I just remember that song playing at the beginning of the show. But as far as the game itself, as far as the game itself, it looked okay. It looked decent. Um, okay, so I gotta talk about these other two. So Shinobi Stryker, I would love to put this higher on the list, man. I would love to, but the game is messy. As much as because I believe I gave the game a 7 or an 8, something like that, in my review, and my main problem with that game, like I've said before, my main problem, besides because it was a very messy game, very chaotic, but it was fun. It was very fun, especially the first few weeks or whatever. Very fun game, but it gets dry after a while. It got dry after a while, mainly because of the lack of content. And I know that they've been updating the game. I believe they announced the season 2, if I'm remembering correctly. And I'm hoping that they add more maps, because they add more maps. And I believe they also announced free to play or a demo or something like that for people that don't want to buy the game outright, to just like try it, which I think is a good idea, especially for free to play. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so the gameplay itself, like I said, that was pretty messy. But if they could just add more content to it, add more content, and I'll admit that I was kind of wrong when I said, because I did videos saying, oh, Shinobi Stryker didn't really need a story mode, but it's just a lack of content there. Like I wish that you could maybe even leave the Leaf Village. Like I like the fact that this is a multiplayer focused game. Like I can commend them on at least trying something different. I mean, yeah, we've had stuff like Battle of Z. We had games like Battle of Z, like last generation, and like I mentioned before, we had Black Clover also last year. Excuse me. We had Black Clover last year, right? But with this game, it was just something different for the Naruto genre. Well, not Naruto genre, Naruto, franchise. We're used to getting these sort of arena brawlers, and it does kind of have that feel to it a little, but it's a lot less. It's it's a lot less what's the word I want to say? It's a lot less polished than the Ultimate Ninja games, the Ultimate Ninja Storm games. And I feel like with a bit more polish, with a bit more development time, and with a bit more content, because I feel like even the character customization in that game was on point though. I'll say that. But with a bit more, work in there, this could be a B tier game. It could be a better game. And that brings me to Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. Now, some of y'all might be wondering why is this low on the list. And well, I feel like this game, like when it came out, now I can't really say this now because they supported this game, and I'll commend them for supporting this game this long. But when the game came out, it was basically Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1.5. They got all y'all that paid $60. They got y'all. They got y'all. Um, I saw the gameplay. I saw the whole entire story. I watched that on YouTube. I played the demo and stuff when they had that out there, when they had it like free to play for like a weekend or whatever. And it's still a inferior version of it's still a very inferior version of Budokai Tenkaichi. It's not very complex when it comes to the mechanics. I'm just not a fan of the gameplay in that. I know they added so much new content into that game. A lot of that stuff that I probably don't even remember. They added like raid battles, some type of card battle simulator thing, and they're just like there are people still supporting this game, and yet they're asking for a Xenoverse 3. And I kept telling people on videos in which Namco Bandai was revealing this stuff. I was like, if y'all stop supporting the game, they'll give y'all Xenoverse 3. They don't have to give y'all a Xenoverse 3 because y'all keep supporting the game. So they keep giving y'all free content and paid content, and y'all keep eating that up. So, but that's besides the point. Um, in comparison to the other Dragon Ball Z games, I don't think it's as strong. And I feel like Xenoverse 1 was at least a better effort, at least at first. I feel like it was a more honest effort in comparison to Xenoverse 2, which I really believe is just Xenoverse 1.5. Or at least at first it was. Like now if the game had launched with more content at first, and like if it would have launched with more content at first, then I really couldn't have said that. But even then, I also had a problem with the story and stuff like that, but that would take too long to kind of elaborate and stuff, so I just move on from that. So at the B tier. Now I think this might confuse y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and address this. So why is Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1 over Xenoverse 2? Well, like I just said, Xenoverse 1, I was hyped for that game when it came out. And with this game, it was something that fans had wanted for the first time. You can't recapture that. You can't recapture actually delivering on that promise of delivering on that promise of character customization. Yeah, we got Ultimate Tenkaichi, but that was terrible. That was a terrible game. That was a QTE game. That was terrible. Xenoverse, I'll say say what you want about Xenoverse, and especially the first game, but it delivered on the character customization. It delivered on that promise of, okay, if you want to be a Super Saiyan or whatever. And I would say the first game was ambitious in comparison to what we got before. The second game wasn't as ambitious, but they're, like I said, they're still adding on, and they have added on more content in the two. But I feel like Xenoverse 1 is a better game in terms of, I would say it's a better game just in I'm trying to figure out the right words to kind of say here, but I would say it was just a better game in terms of just the effort that they put toward it. I feel like it's, like I said, it felt like a more genuine game than a cash grab, than a game that just it felt unfinished. It felt, because I wouldn't say that Xenoverse 2 didn't really feel, I wouldn't say that it felt unfinished, that it seemed unfinished, but it seemed like they could have spent more time on it, and they could have given us a lot more with that. But moving on, So we got My Hero One's Justice. Now some of y'all might disagree with this game being a bit high on the list, but in comparison to the other games, this game kind of surprised me because when I saw it at first, I was like, okay, like when they first revealed it, I was like, this looks kind of terrible. But when I played it, it reminded me of Power Stone a little bit because one of my main complaints about that game is how floaty it is. But at the same time, just the way that the gameplay is, it kind of reminded me a bit of Power Stone, and I loved Power Stone back in the day. And then there's just a level of complexity there. I mean, there are people still playing that online, but there's a level of complexity in the combat that I don't think is in the Xenoverse games. That I don't think is in Jump Force. That's in Burning Blood. I don't think that those games have that level of complexity there. There was like you can tell that there was a lot of dot put into this game, a lot of attention to detail, and it really feels like a game that's celebrating the franchise. And from a presentation standpoint, it knocks out of the park just on presentation alone. But the just the mechanics and stuff, I feel like it's a lot stronger than a lot of the games on this list. And it definitely could be a better game. And I wouldn't mind. Honestly, I want Arc System Works to get their hands on My Hero Academia. I wouldn't even want a sequel to this, but if they do have a sequel to this game, they gotta fix that. They gotta fix that gravity, man. Because I don't know why is the joint so floaty. I don't want to go off on a rant, but why is this game so freaking floaty? It takes people like 20 minutes to get back to the ground. It's like everybody got hit with Uraraka's quirk. But anyway, Fist of the North Star. Now, this originally, I was gonna put this at the C rank, right? But I saw the gameplay and stuff, and like my friend has played the game. He vouched for it. He was like, "What are you doing? Why is this game so low?" And I was like, okay, I kind of see what you mean, like based off of the other games, because especially when you compare this, because we did get a Fist of the North Star game on the PS3, and that game was boo boo. That game was another the Fist of the North Star game on the PS3 was like another Dynasty Warriors style game, and this game it feels more true to what that series is just based off of what I saw. It looks a lot better gameplay wise, and I've heard people kind of compare it to like Mad Max a little bit, and like it feels like they put a lot more love and care and time and effort into this game. So I would probably put it higher than a lot of these games. Um, so the last game on the B tier is Digimon World. Now, I'll admit that because there was issues that I had with this, and I totally forgot what those issues were at this moment. I don't think this game is as strong. I'll just say this: I don't think this game is as strong as the Cyber Sleuth games. I think those games are superior in terms of mechanics and stuff. I feel like a lot of Digimon games in general that we've gotten lately have been held back by they've been held back by the Vita, and I'm happy that like the Vita is kind of fading away, and so maybe the next Digimon World will be a better game. I actually need to, and I'll admit that I haven't played this. I've just seen a lot of gameplay, and I was curious about it because a lot of people were talking about it. And it's a game that definitely isn't for everybody. It's definitely a acquired taste. It's more like you're raising these Digimon. It's more of a raising Digimon game, and then like the battles are like you can't really control the Digimon, and maybe I didn't like that too much. But if you're into that sort of game, it's a pretty decent game. It's a pretty decent RPG, and like I said, it's something different. I'll always commend Bandai Namco and these developers for doing something different with these anime games. So at the A tier, we got Digimon, Cyber Sleuth, Hacker's Memory. Now, this game, I'm going to kind of save talking about this game until I get to the next tier. But I'll just say this. It didn't feel like a complete sequel. And I know that the game runs concurrently with the first title. But it felt like I don't want to say it felt like a cash grab necessarily, but I wish they would have done a lot more just based off of what I played. I still haven't beat that game. I'm pretty far into it. Like I have like almost 50 hours in the game, so I've definitely had my fill. It's definitely still a fun game, but I think this game also lacked the amount of Digimon because it didn't really add too many new Digimon also. But like I said, I'll save kind of talking about this a bit more until I get to like the S tier. Um, so the other game, Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. Now, when this game came out, man, there were so many issues with this game. The online was very lacking. Just in general, the gameplay very laggy. Um, Very laggy, frame rate drops and stuff like that. Because I'm trying to go off the top of my head stuff that I kind of remember here. I like that they added the whole, what do they call it, the leader switch or whatever. I like that. I like the mechanics, the the changes that they made to the mechanics. But I felt like the story mode, like the cutscenes look good. The bosses, there weren't a lot of great bosses, but there were great bosses in there, definitely. But with the story mode, I felt like it was a bit lazy in terms of they had like these cutscenes that were like I I don't want to say like visual, not visual novel, but there's a word for it. Motion comic. It was kind of like a motion comic type thing, and I wasn't a big fan of that. And I believe like they didn't have spectating at the time. I don't know if they added that in later on, if they patched that in, but they didn't have spectating when I had the game. They didn't have spectating. They didn't have a lot. It lacked content. They didn't really have a lot of new characters from what I remember. Now, I know they added Boruto and the other characters like later on, I think, because then they did like Road to Boruto or whatever. Like I never played the expansion, but yeah, in terms of like comparing it to the other Ninja Storm games, I feel like it's weaker in terms of content. In terms of, well, in presentation, it's still top notch in a lot of areas, especially in the cutscenes and stuff. But yeah, it's not the strongest Storm game in my opinion. Maybe mechanics wise, you can kind of make the argument because of the leader switch and stuff, and a few tweaks that they made here and there. But yeah, that's gonna be at the A tier for me. At the S rank. So at the S tier, we got Dragon Ball Fighters and Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. So let's get Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth out of the way. This game I feel like is the superior game to the sequel. I felt like the sequel they definitely reuse assets and stuff. Obviously they reuse assets, and I guess it's okay because I try to give them a pass because the game does run like in terms of the story, it runs concurrently. It runs at the same time as the first story, and like the RPG mechanics are pretty strong. And I would say that in a lot of ways, the Cyber Sleuth games are way better than Pokemon in a lot of areas. I mean, they even include a hard mode, in which case I wish that Game Freak would actually put a hard mode in the Pokemon games. But anyway, these games are pretty strong though. But Digimon Cyber Sleuth definitely a S tier game. It's definitely a game that if you're a fan of RPGs, and another thing I gotta point out for both of these games is presentation. The presentation is really good, and the first game definitely surprised me in that it felt like Digimon had grew up with me. It felt like it felt like it was tackling uh like mature, almost mature themes and stuff like that. Like I didn't think that they were gonna tackle certain stuff. It felt like it was a bit more mature, and I definitely enjoy that a lot more than Pokemon. But yeah, pretty good game. Dragon Ball Fighters, y'all already know how I feel about that. Still playing that to this day. I'm not even big into fighting games like that, and I feel like this is one of the best fighting games in terms of uh, accessibility for casuals like me. Like I feel like it's a pretty good Dragon Ball game and a pretty good fighting game at that. My only problem with this game is that it lacks single player content, but there's definitely content there, but it lacks single player content, but it's still like when you compare it to all the other games on this list, it's way better in terms of presentation, in terms of mechanics, in terms of just all nearly everything. It's top notch, and that's to be expected from Arc System Works. There was one last thing that I wanted to point out that I said that I wanted to save until later. Oh yeah, here's the thing. So when I was compiling this list, I was having a bit of trouble because a lot of these games aren't as good as the games that we got last generation, and especially the generation before last, like the PS2 and Xbox 360 generation. And I realized something. Anime games is so like the anime games this generation, they are not as good as what we've gotten the last two generations. Like PS2 era, I would say PS2 era and Xbox 360 era. Like the last two generation games are way better, and I'll make this argument and let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. I would say, just judging off of what we got here, our games were way better back in the day, and this might just it might just be me, just nostalgia goggles, right? But compare like Clash and Ninja, we got stuff like Clash and Ninja, Broken Bond, the original Ultimate Ninja games that I feel like are superior to Ninja Storm. We had Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi. We had Burst Limit. We had the regular Budokai games. Like the games, it felt like they were a lot better. It was less focused on presentation and graphics and more on mechanics and more on giving you a lot more for your money. I feel like personally, and y'all can tell me if I'm wrong about this. Do y'all think that this generation's anime games are better than the past two generations? Because I don't. I really don't. Because this list was kind of frustrating to make. Because I feel like a lot of these games, when you compare them to the other anime games that we've had in the past, man, they just don't compare. They really don't. But that's just me. That's just me. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I know this is a pretty long video, but I want to thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm out of here. This has been Fear No Hate. Thank you guys for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.